Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Carr again. Today, we're going to be talking about 10B Day 1, different ways of representing our data. So we talked about some of the main measures of center. Now we're going to talk about how to show that data in a variety of ways. Today, let's focus on three of them. First thing we want to do is let's talk about some vocab. Frequency. That is the number of times a value in a data set occurs. Okay. Dot plot. That is a diagram that shows the frequency of a data set. And it's basically, we are stacking dots to do that. Okay. A bar graph is one that compares categories of data and using bars to represent the frequencies. Okay, so I talk about bars, I'm talking about like this, you get that, and then like shades in. All right, histogram. This is a special type of bar graph. Okay, used to display numerical data that have been organized into what's called bins. Okay, or also known as intervals. And what I mean by that is we talk about frequency. Frequency is stacking dots. So for example, how many people got an A on their test? You can stack it. Here's 3 people. That's what that represents. Getting an A on the test, you could show it with a bar graph as well. But in the histogram, we're showing numerical data. So the idea would be that I would have a bar here, and this might represent a range of values. So it could be like 60 to 65. Okay, that's just one example there. So this includes 62, 63. That would show up in this type of bar graph. So we'll go into each of these 3 types a little bit more in depth. So the first one we'll talk about is dot plots. So in this scenario, we look at the title, it's minutes to eat breakfast. Now, it'd be nice if there's a little bit more information, but I look ahead, I know that each dot represents a student. Okay, because then the next one says, what is the frequency of students that ate breakfast in 12 minutes? So we only have one student who did that. That's all we're looking for there. Okay, 12 minutes, we find that there's 1 dot. That means exactly 1 student ate per 12 minutes. How many people spent 4 minutes eating breakfast? So that's right here. We have 2 dots. So there's 2 students who did that. How many people spent at least 9 minutes eating breakfast? That's a little bit different. So at least 9 minutes includes 9, but it also includes 10, 11, and 12. So all we need to do is just count up all of these dots. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 students spent at least 9 minutes eating breakfast. Okay. What was the most time spent eating breakfast? Well, we saw that earlier. The highest number is 12 minutes. How many total people were interviewed in this scenario? So this is actually just the total number of dots. So I just kind of look through it again here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 2, 3, and that's 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. Here's a 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, and 1. Okay, so we're just going to add up all of these numbers. And that's going to be our total number of students that were a part of this. So we got 6 and 2 is 8, 3 is 11, 5 is 16, that's 18, 23, 25, 28, 35, 39, 40. There were 40 total students. Okay, so that's the type of scenarios you'll see with a dot plot, where again, frequency is the 6 for this case. Okay, it's how many students had 0. How many students had 5? That's the frequency is 5. We can also show our frequency. I'm going to skip ahead now to representation number 2, bar graphs. The only real main difference between a bar graph and a dot plot is that they use bars instead of dots. That's all. But it's doing a lot of the same thing. This is still going to be the frequency is how tall the bar gets. So in this scenario, how many students were surveyed? Again, we're going to count it out. So I've got 3 students in January. Oh, well, let's read this real quick. Birthday of students by month. So these are the months where that's our categories. And then this is our frequency, which is the number of students in each case. So 3 students are in January, 4 in February, 2 in March, 3 in April, 8 in May, 10 in June, 6 in July, 1 in August, 7 in September, 8 in October, 4 in November, and 7 in December. So again, we're just going to add these numbers up for the total survey. I'm just going to go ahead and pause it here just so you don't have to watch me do all the counting on that one. Okay, so we count up all those numbers and we get 63 students. Okay, which month had the most birthdays? So we can see that right here. I labeled it, but it's also the tallest bar. So June had the most birthdays. How many more birthdays does October have than August? So October has 8, August has 1. So we can just take 8 minus 1 for 7 more birthdays. Okay. What months have the same number of birthdays? So that's a fun one I have to look at because we've got matching with 3. There's 2 3s here. Looks like there's 2 4s and 2 7s. Okay. So we have January matching with April. We have February. Oops. February matching with November. And September matching with December. I don't think there's any others because there's just 1, 2. Oh no, there's 2 8s. Didn't see that one. May matches with October. Okay. And that should be it. What is the frequency of April? We already saw that. Just 1. Okay. 1 birthday in April. So that is our bar graphs. Again, bar graphs and dot plots are representing very similar things. I could have done the same exact thing here. I could have just done 3 dots, or I could have done 4 dots. Does very similar things. Histogram is going to be the most different. And this part's already filled out, but it's a type of bar chart that uses bins to sort the data into. Here's what we mean by this. Before I start answering questions, I want to look at this. We're comparing amount of sleep and the frequency this happens. So again, we're talking about number of students here. If a student had 6.2 hours of sleep, that is counted in this first bin. Okay, 6.2 shows up between 6.5. All right. Also, when you look at these numbers, it's weird because the histogram bars are all smushed together and they're touching like this. And that's okay because it's always the left number. The left number is in the bin. So what I mean by that is if a student had 6 hours of sleep, they're also in the first bin here. If a student had 8 hours of sleep, they are in this bin. Okay, so it's like 8 hours is in this bin, 8.5 here, 9 here, 9.5 is nothing. So the most anybody would have gotten is just below the 9.5 hours. Okay, so I just want to make sure to clarify that when I label my histogram, the numbers on the left of each bar is a part of that bin. Okay, so the 6.5 is going to jump into the next one, not be part of the first one. So this is just one specific student after 50 consecutive days. How many days did he sleep? 6.5 hours. So 6.5 hours. The way I would personally word this is 6.5 hours shows up in this bin. Technically speaking, it could be 6.5, 6.6, 6.7. I would say it would just be at most a frequency of 9. So how many days did he sleep? I would say at most 9 days. Or 9 days, geez. Yeah, no, days, that's right. My bad. Yeah, at most 9 days. I was correct to say that because he had 9 days of that. How many days did he sleep between 6 and 8 hours? Okay, so again, kind of like we did before, I'm going to look at a range. So 6 hours up to 8 hours is going to go here, but I'm actually going to include that bin there because remember, 8 hours is a part. And actually, you know what, the way I'm reading it says between 6 and 8, so I am going to cut that short. I'm just going to go from here to here because it says between 6 and 8. So it's actually going to be anything that's in this range. Okay, so that is going to be, we've got a 2, 9, 12, and 12. So that's going to be 30, 35. Okay, so potentially 35 days. You got between 6 and 8 hours of sleep. Okay, so how many days did he sleep? At least 8.5 hours. So at least 8.5 is going to start at this bin here, and it's going to go that way. So we are including 8.5 in those last two bins. So that happens at 2 and 2 for both of those. So there's at least, he slept 4 days. He had at least 8.5 hours. And then what is the bin width? So bin width in this case is just, we're going to subtract the 2. Okay, so if we just take consecutive numbers like 6.5 minus 6, that is 0.5. So what that means is the 0.5 kind of represents the range of numbers that can be. So for example, in 6, it could be 6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. Okay, but it could also go up, because it's up to 0.5, I can do like 6.45 hours, 6.49 hours. I'm going to go all the way up really close to 6.5, but not exactly 6.5, because that jumps to this one. All right. And that is all 3 of those representations there. So again, we have dot plots and bar charts, pretty similar to each other. Histogram looks like a bar chart, but it's got its own special things to it.